Hello and welcome to my channel. I'm Angela Brennan and today I'm bringing you a couple of Spellbinders club kits. I'm starting off the Glimmer Hot Fall Kit of the month, February 2025, called Spring Canopy. It comes with a leafy background for the top half of the card, which you can double up and cover the whole card. It comes with two sentiments with coordinating dies and two sentiments without coordinating dies, as well as a tube of hot foil, and this time it's the lavender petal hot foil. Per usual, I start off by heating up my Glimmer machine and placing my hot foil onto hammer mill card. Hammer mill card is what I use to do hot foiling because it's nice and smooth and it's got a good weight to it, and I use the best ever craft tape to secure the Glimmer plate onto the card. Always the same sandwich. The dull side of the hot foil faces the card, the pretty side of the hot foil faces the pretty side of the Glimmer plate, and then you press that button, and when this button stops flickering, you know it's time to remove the entire platform and run it through the Platinum 6 machine. I just put it through once. I always put the platform back into the docking station so it keeps the heat going, and I remove the best ever craft tape slowly and keep the hinge at the top just in case I need to put it back, but I don't need to because it's got a perfect foiling. Look at that shine that comes through. Now I want to use the same foil on the other side because I want to pretty much cover the front of the card. So this is an A2 size card which measures 4¼ inches by 5½ inches, and I'm doing the same thing. Pretty side of foil face pretty side of the Glimmer plate, dull side of the foil faces the card. For all the hot foiling, it's the same layering and same sandwich. All I need to do is press that button and ensure it stops flickering, put it through the Platinum 6, and I get perfect foiling almost always when I use this smooth card, which is the hammer mill card, and it's got a good weightage. This sentiment comes with the Glimmer Hot Foil Kit, and it says blossom into happiness this spring, and it also comes with a coordinating die. But I'm going to be using my T-ruler here to make sure I put it straight. I'm going to hot foil it directly into the center of that card. I'll be doing some die cutting later on, but I'm just using the same color lavender petal hot foil, using the hinge method here, as you can see what I've done, and I'm just removing or cutting off the excess foil so I can secure it onto the card with the best ever craft tape and put it through the Glimmer hot foil system again. And again, I get good results. There you go. Blossom into happiness this spring. So you can make the card as simple, or you can put layers onto it. So this is a great way to make single layered cards. And you can see the negative hot foil. I've got not wasted it as well by using the solid rectangle Glimmer plate. Once I have my Glimmer hot foil machine on, I do use various hot foils here, and this is the result of the foliage with polished brass hot foil. And again, I do not waste that negative hot foil, which is why I end up with quite a few cards. So I'm going to put this negative hot foil through the machine as well, and as you can see, it's the same principles that will apply because you've got the dull side against the card, pretty side against the Glimmer plate. And when you remove that little plastic there, when you see that clear plastic, you know that the foil has transferred beautifully, and there you get the positive and negative hot foil images, and you get two cards. Now I'm using the die that comes with the kit, which is the edge of that hot foil, and I'm going to die cut it. So again, you can die cut it or not die cut it and create different types of cards that you can utilize to create a composition on the card front. So I continue to do this with various hot foils, and this is the teal hot foil. I do like teal, so I generally tend to use teal in most of my hot foils just to get that lovely color coming through. And again, I will be doing some negative hot foiling as well. So I will be putting that solid rectangle, pretty side of that hot foil facing that rectangle, and the dull side facing the card, and I'm using the hammer mill smooth card here again so that I can get really optimal results, especially when I'm negative hot foiling. Using the hammer mill card will give you amazing results. Another clear plastic here to show you that. And here are all the sentiments that I've done some hot foiling and die cut as well. You can use the positive and negative hot foil of the foliage on the same card or use it in different cards. I think I used it on the same card for most of it, but some of it I put it differently just to show you different ways you can put the composition together. And here's another one that I've done with pink hot foil, and I've used a really light blush card to do the hot foiling, and I've hot foiled the sentiment directly onto the card as well. I'm not going to die cut the sentiment, but you can see I've die cut a little sliver at the bottom there. I actually put Happy Easter there, but I put it the wrong way around. So I decided to die cut it, and then I'm going to put the Happy Easter, layer it, and put it there. You'll see what I mean. So here I'm just cutting out the foliage after using the outline die cut that comes with the die. The die comes with the hot foil kit, and then I've got all the images done. I'm going to place that in the front of it, and there you go. I've got a slightly smaller white card rectangle there, which is smaller than an A7 card. So the base card here is an A7 card, which measures 5 inches by 7 inches. I've die cut a slightly smaller rectangle, and I'm going to place that blossom, so the sentiment there. I've got Happy Easter, which I've already die cut and layered, and I'll place that again. This is a very simple card. I've only used the pink hot foil for all elements of it, which is the sentiment as well as the foliage as well. And there you go. I've got Happy Easter there, and I'm going to be placing that die cut foliage with some dimensional tape because I just wanted some differentiation to show the depth of that die cut, and I think it looks really pretty. This dimensional tape is not 1 millimeter, but I think it's 2 millimeters, so it's slightly higher. Not sure if this is something you want to put through the post, but it's certainly a card that you can hand because it's got some depth and dimension. And all I need to do is just then place this entire panel onto an A7 card, and again the A7 card is a 5 by 7 inch card. I've already added some foam sheet behind the panel to give it some depth, and I'm going to attach it with some double-sided tape. Double-sided tape is my preferred adhesive. You could use liquid glue as well. And there you go, a very simple card, and I like the simplicity of this card. I really hope you enjoy all the inspiration that comes with this video, and if you do, please give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing. And when you do subscribe, remember to press that notification bell so you're alerted when new videos are uploaded. I die cut these tiny yellow flowers from the die from the small die of the month from February 2025. Again, that's where it's quite versatile. I just wanted a little bit of flowers on all this foliage, and you'll see in subsequent cards I use different flowers as well. So this is tiny enough, and I just like that simplicity of the card. So it's quite a flat card with just a little bit of dimension with the sentiment. And this is the same foil, hot foil, again lavender petal, that I've hot foiled onto a lilac card. And I'm going to use my Villainous Potion Distress ink to just put a little bit of distress ink that I'm going to blend around the sentiment so that when you put the foliage around it, you can just see a shadow of it. So I just die cut the edges of the foliage using the die that comes with the kit as well. And again, it's a very simple card, and I've just put it onto this time an A2 card. An A2 card measures 4¼ inches by 5½ inches. And you can use this foliage that's die cut. You can put it onto an A7 card as I showed you earlier, or an A2 card. So quite a few different sizes you can use to attach this foliage. You don't always have to put it at the top and the bottom. I've done a few cards that I'll show you later on in this video where I just use one part of it as well. So it's really up to you, but I like the idea of having the foliage at the top and the bottom of the card. I just think it looks really pretty. And here is the positive and negative image that I've done using the black hot foil, and I'm going to put them overlapping that way. So this time around the foliage is only going to be at the top, and I'm going to do some ink blending, 3 different distress inks at the bottom. I'm just marking where the inks should go, just very lightly, so I have an indication. And I'm starting off with Uncharted Marina, and I'm going to use some peacock feathers and salvage patina. Very, very light. I have a tendency to be quite heavy-handed with my ink blending when I apply ink, so I'm trying to be really light here, but I don't know whether I succeed. But I do like how the card turns out in the end, and I do like the fact that I'm going to be using some flowers as well on the foliage there. The flowers this time around, I'm going to get it from the large die of the month, so the one with the bunnies, and it's just a very simple flower that I'm going to add there. You can already see I've die cut that, and I've used various hues of teal. I'm going to use some glue for one layer of the foliage, and I'm going to use the second layer, which is the top layer. I'm going to use some dimensional tape. So I'm placing the first layer first just to make sure there's space at the top to do the second layer. I've already backed the panel with a foam sheet just to give it a bit of dimension, and this is a rectangle that is slightly smaller than an A7 card. As mentioned, the A7 card measures 5 by 7 inches, and there you go. I'm just going to cut the excess from the panel. I should have kind of measured it first. I'm just wasting some of my dimensional tape there. And there you go. The panel's pretty much ready. I'm going to place that Blossom into Happiness sentiment from the hot foil that I've already foiled in advance. And I'm just going to place that there with my tea ruler to make sure it's nice and straight. Then I'll place all the flowers using my trusted fine point glitter glue, as well as the media picker tool, which comes in really handy when I'm putting these little pieces onto the card. And all that's left to do is place this panel or attach this panel onto the card base, which is a 5 by 7 inches A7 card. I like to try with different assembly of the cards as well as different sized cards, because I think you get a slightly different look when you use a larger card compared to always using an A2 card. So I do like to experiment with it, and I would really like you to let me know what you think of the different size cards and the various compositions that I've put together with this Glimmer of the Month. I do like how this card has turned out with that slight ink blending at the bottom. Now I'm using the Precision Layering Set A, the die set, and just die cut it slightly smaller than an A2 card. And here I'm placing the negative image as well as the positive image onto one card. As you can see, I have added some dimensional tape to the negative image, and then I'm placing the entire panel onto the front of an A2 card. Not too dissimilar from the previous card here. I'm using that same flowers, this time in different hues of pinks and reds, and I'm going to just place it all over the card. Pretty similar composition with the sentiment that I've already layered. That's what I like about having sentiments with coordinating dies. I like the fact that I can die cut additional layers and give it a little bit more dimension. And here I'm adding a couple of leaves to those little flowers and adding them with some foam squares near the sentiment. I like how this card turned out. Here are all the cards that I've created with the Glimmer Hot Foil Kit of the Month, and this is the negative image of that lavender petal, and you saw me put this card together. I've used most of the sentiments that I've already hot foiled, die cut and layered in advance, and some of the sentiments I've hot foiled it directly onto the card front. So you can do different compositions because you do have the option when you have a die cut, a coordinating die that goes with the sentiment. And I like how both turned out. Here are many different ideas on how you can put these cards together. I really hope you found it inspirational. Do let me know what you think. I have not let any wastage of the hot foil that I've done, whether it's a negative for the positive as well as the negative images, and some I've done it together in one card, some separately. Do let me know what you think of these cards. Now moving on to the next kit, here's the BetterPress of the month, and I do like to do some hot foiling with my BetterPress plates, and this BetterPress of the month comes with a registration sheet, which I'll show you how I use it when I do some letterpressing later on in this video. I do always start off doing hot foiling with my BetterPress plates, but I'll tell you in advance that all the sentiments come with coordinating dies, and I do like hot foiled sentiments rather than letterpress sentiments. So you will see, I will show you how I'll do some letterpressing of the sentiments, but I prefer hot foil sentiments. And I'm starting off with a satin pastel hot foil, which is lilac. And again, I'm going to be using my hammer mill card whenever I do hot foiling, whether it's with Glimmer plates or BetterPress plates. I'm going to use my hammer mill card, which I really think hot foils beautifully. So whether you're using a hot foil plate or a Glimmer plate or a BetterPress plate to do hot foiling, it's the same principles. So the dull side of the hot foil faces the card, pretty side of hot foil faces the pretty side of the BetterPress plate. Same timing as well, and that's what I like about it. Not much thinking to do. If you can hot foil with your Glimmer plates, you can definitely hot foil with your BetterPress plates. And that's why I think the BetterPress Club Kit is a 2-for-1, because you can do hot foiling as well as letterpressing. As you can see, I'm using the same principles, the same timing. Wait for that timer to stop flicking or flickering, and then I put it through my Platinum 6 machine, and then I will continue to do that. When I have my hot foiling machine on, I do take the opportunity to do lots of hot foiling of the sentiments. And here I'm going to be doing another. I want to cover the entire front of this card with the hot foiling. So it's a bit of a guess. So I just find a point where I want to align it to that point at the bottom of that BetterPress hot foiled image. And I just do that. I remove the foil at the bottom because I'm only going to adhere the BetterPress plate to the card at the bottom with the best ever craft tape, because I don't want to put any tape at the top, because if I put it at the top I will mess up the bits that have already been foiled, because the tape will remove the foiling and I don't want to risk that. So I carefully put it onto the platform, and then I will put it through the Platinum 6 machine. I'm not going to show you every time I put it through the Platinum 6 machine. You know what it is. Look. So I like this look of it. So it looks a bit like a wallpaper. I do end up using this card on the large die of the month, and I'll show you how the card finishes in the picture of it later on. What I wanted to say is that process is shown in a different video, and I'll put a link to that video in the description below. And I continue using the same hot foil to do some hot foiling of these sentiments and die cutting them as well. So all the sentiments, the negative hot foil, I'm not going to put it to waste. I'm using my solid rectangle Glimmer plate and using the hammer card. So these are all the offcuts, if you like, of the cards, and I'm going to use them to do some negative hot foil of the sentiments. And the good thing is I can remove the plastic layer and die cut it. You may use a magnetic holder to remove that Glimmer plate because it can be quite hot, so do remove it carefully. So these sentiments, I will just use the coordinating die that comes to sentiment, and you can see here I get the positive and negative images of all the sentiments. Some of it, if there's some overfoiling, then you can't really get the negative sentiment. So here are all the cards that I've done hot foiling, and you can see I've used the large die of the month to use that lilac background. Check out the link in the descriptions if you want to check out how I put that card together. So here I'm just die cutting a slightly smaller rectangle than the A7 card here, attaching it with the front of the card and a sentiment. Very, very simple. I keep this card really simple because I want to show with hot foiling you can keep it simple, or you can add some additional drama to it if you want. I do end up adding some tiny gems on that pattern of that BetterPress image, but it's totally up to you whether you want to or not. It's not really visible, but I did add to it because I think it just gives a little bit of a subtle shine to it. All of the products that I used in this video, I've tried my best to add it to the description below, so do check it out. I really hope you find inspiration in how I've put all these cards together and the different ways that I've decided to use the BetterPress plate as well. I think most crafters will do hot foiling as well as letterpressing. So for this background here, I'm using the stitching die frame and die cutting it. So I did that initially, then I used the rectangle frame and die cut it with metallic card as well. To see how I've done some die cutting and stitching with the stitching die of the month, February 25, do check out the link in the description below where I show you more on how I use the stitching die. Here I'm just showing you a little bit of what I do here. I always like to layer my stitching die so it's a little bit more robust when I do some stitching. And I'm not going to show you how I do all of the stitching here, but I do use the metallic thread. I secure the metallic thread at the back of the card panel with some sticky tape. The metallic thread is a little bit harder to do, so if you're a newbie, I wouldn't suggest using the metallic thread because you do need to maintain the tension of the thread by holding it with your thumb for every stitch that you do. So it's a little bit trickier than using cotton thread. Cotton thread, if I use, I generally tend to just secure it with the next stitch rather than use any sticky tape. So it's a little bit more challenging with the metallic thread. So I would suggest You only use it if you're a little bit more experienced. So I do end up stitching the entire frame, which takes a little while, which is why when I do the stitching, I tend to either watch telly or listen to an audiobook, so I am just listening to something or watching something while I'm stitching, because it's quite repetitive and it does take a little bit of time. And here it's completed now, and all I'm doing now is I'm going to create a card which is a shaped card with a scallop frame. So I'm covering all the stitches with another die cut of that frame. So I'm just using sticky tape here. You can use liquid glue if you want, but I just find sticky tape easier, making sure all the scallops align before I remove my double-sided adhesive, so you can see the back of the panel. When you open the card, it's nice and neat. And then I've got some additional panels that I've already die cut, and I'm going to be attaching them together because that's going to form where I'll be writing the message. I didn't want to have the panel too thin, and I didn't want the back showing the back of the die cut, so I'm just attaching that as well with some sticky tape and making sure it's nice and fully aligned before I do some scoring. So I'm going to score the top of this panel here, so it allows for the card to flip open and write my message in once I've adhered it with some adhesive. And I do use liquid glue for this particular attachment because I think it's easier. So once I put the liquid glue on this inside bit of the card, I'm just going to put that top bit there, and I do put it under a thick book for a little while so it's nice and properly dried, the glue. Then I can just show you. You can open the card, write your message there, and you can put the card up like that. And I got this little eggs here from the large die of the month. I'm just going to add it because I'm going to put an Easter sentiment. So I've just cut a couple of eggs there, and I've put that gold bow to kind of match the gold of the thread as well as the gold of the hot foil on the sentiment, which I've got Applicator, which I've already die cut and layered, and I'm using my T-ruler to just place it there. So it's a simple composition, but just a little addition of some gold thread and some gold foil just adds to that elegance and that lushness of that card. Now I'm going to show you how I do some letter pressing with the BetterPress plates. And firstly, I'm going to attach the registration sheet onto the chase, which is the magnetic platform where the BetterPress plates will be placed on. I've already attached the cotton card, 100% cotton card, onto the platen, which is the clear platform. I've also attached it with best ever craft tape. And here I'm going to follow that registration sheet and place the BetterPress plate. And I'm going to start by using the Spruce BetterPress ink. Now, BetterPress ink stain, so you do need a special remover. Use the archival ink cleaner. I'll show you later how I do that. But I'm only placing the ink on some of that plate because I intend to use 3 colors to cover it. So I just do a little bit of the ink at the top of that image, and I put it through the Platinum 6. Now I will go on and place the next ink, which is a different shade of green, which is the pine. Now I don't want to have very clear defined lines, so I'm just putting it quite randomly. And if you want, you can use a soft towel to kind of make sure there's no clear lines, because I do want it to be kind of gradual, the color. I don't have a delineation of the colors between the 3 different colors I use. And there you can see a subtle difference. And finally, I'm using a very light green, which is called Laurel. And I'm just cleaning all the bits that have come out of the plate because I don't want it to accidentally hit my paper there, because I want to make sure that I continuously can put the image throughout the entire front. And I do like how that turned out. So quite a gradual color movement between that image. So now I'm just going to move the BetterPress plate to the top. Again, I'm following the lines on the registration plate, so it's placed nice and neat for the pattern to continue. And as I used earlier, at the bottom of that BetterPress plate, I'm using the Laurel ink, so which is the lightest green ink, and putting it through the platinum machine. And see how you can already see. Now I don't like the fact that the ink was too defined, so I did put the colors in and made sure that it kind of is more gradual. So I'm going to move the BetterPress plate to the bottom here, and the top of that BetterPress plate I used the Spruce, which is the darker color. So I'm just going to put that color again and put it through the machine. I just wanted a full coverage of that A2 size sheet, which is 4¼ by 5½ inches. And I wanted to make sure that I wipe all the bits of ink that goes outside the plate, because sometimes I notice sometimes it does end up going onto the paper and I don't like that. So there you go. Very quickly I managed to use the BetterPress inks on the BetterPress plate and cover the entire front of that card. I do like how that turned out. I like that graduation of color. Because these BetterPress ink cubes are very small, when you get them, remember to get the refills as well, because they do use up quite a lot of ink. So you need to have the refills to make sure you get good coverage when you want to place them onto the BetterPress plates. Now I'm using the archival ink cleaner to clean the platen and the chase as well as the BetterPress plate. Now the BetterPress plate will stain despite using the archival ink cleaner, but it doesn't matter, the performance of the plate remains. Even though the stain is there, you can still clean it and you can still put the next color without any contamination. Now I'm going to use some VersaFine Clair. This is Fantasia, which is a purpley blue color, more purple I think. And I like using VersaFine Clair to do letter pressing because firstly the ink pad is very flat and it goes on well, and also the ink transfers well. The next color is the Tulip Red. Here I'm using all the same color on the BetterPress plate. And finally, for the final color, right at the bottom, which is going to be a little bit of that color, is going to be Warm Breeze, which is a teal color. So I have used VersaFine Clair on my letter pressing before, and I find it's the best. If you don't have BetterPress inks, this gives you the best coverage and the best results for letter pressing. My personal view, and it's also easier to clean because it doesn't stain like the BetterPress inks. Now I'm going to just do one image of it on the card, and I'm going to put a sentiment as well. I generally do not BetterPress or letterpress my sentiments, but I'm going to show you that you can do that as well. So I'm going to put the entire image here of the BetterPress plate with Warm Breeze VersaFine Clair ink, and then I'm also going to arrange the thank you sentiment on that. So before I put it there, I'm going to put it onto a sticky mat to just ink it with some Twilight ink, which is slightly darker teal, and then place it on the chase so that it will be letterpressed just above where that image has been already letterpressed. And there you go, you've got the sentiment on the card front itself. Now let's start creating some cards. I'm using the Precision Layering Set A die set to just die cut that letterpressed image slightly smaller than an A2 card, so I can put it straight onto the A2 card with a sentiment. Now the sentiment here, the orange one here I have, or the red one, I have letterpressed it. I wasn't too keen on it. So I've got a few different sentiments to try out, and I decided to go with that thank you sentiment that I've hot foiled in polished brass, and I've also die cut and layered it. So the sentiment will have a bit of depth, and I'm just placing it onto the card front with some double-sided tape, and I'm just going to put that sentiment. I do end up adding a few tiny gems of multiple sizes onto the card front of my BetterPress images because I just think it adds a little bit of shine, and that subtlety of that shine from that tiny gems does make me happy. I like the way it looks on it. So I've just added the sentiment there with some liquid glue, and then I go on to add some gems. I do like the gems that I have, and I do get gems whenever I see some deals on tiny gems. I do get them because I think they look really pretty. And here I'm adding some gold mix gems from the Color Essential Gem set. So it's got adhesive behind it, so I'm just putting some of them onto the card where it looks quite natural with the dots. So you've got some tiny dots and some larger dots. I'm just adding the gems there with my little tool just to give it a little bit more glitz. Some patterns like this one will naturally tell you where the little gems can go. I tend to not want to overdo it, so I've just added a few, and I like having gems of different sizes. It's not very clear in the video, but in real life you can really see them. Here I almost add the image upside down. I think it should be the other way around so you can see the flower. I do remove it, and that's the thing about having those adhesives, just the flaps coming out a little bit, so you can move it around if you're not happy. And then I place it again onto the front of the card with a little bit of foam sheet behind it just to give it a bit of depth. I do add little gems on this as well because I do like how it looked in the first one. And I'm just going to add a sentiment. And the sentiment here I've also hot foiled onto some green card. So it says sending Easter blessings, which I've hot foiled and layered, die cut and layered as well. So it's nice and got nice dimension on it. And then I go on to add some gems on it of various sizes, just following the dots that the pattern lends to. Invariably, I always gravitate towards green-blue pattern colors, so green-blue combinations. And here I've got another one that is teal, and I'm showing you a different way of assembling the card here. I'm just going to be using a panel of that teal card there, just to put it at the top. Because I think where I'm going to put it, I put it at the top and then I just put the letterpressed image at the bottom, just for a different way that you can put the card together. There's so many ways that you can assemble a card, and it's about experimenting what fits for you. And if you don't have enough colored cardstock, you can always use white cardstock and use your ink pad to do some ink blending on that card to create a solid colored card. So many ways to do it. And I'm just attaching this panel with some foam sheet behind it, just to give it a little bit more of a height. So there's a differentiation in the depth. And that's one way of doing it. And I do add some gems to this as well, because I do like the look of gems on that pattern as mentioned. Now the next card I'm going to put together, I'm going to do some die cutting and that little arch at the bottom. So this is the arch labels die set. So we've got a nesting die here. I'm just using one of the smaller arch dies to just cut a little pattern at the bottom. And this time I'm going to put a brown colored card at the bottom because the sentiment has been stamped with a brown ink. And I thought I will just lend to that by just adding that block of brown card at the bottom. Now because I don't want to add a foam sheet, I'm just putting another layer of white scrap card just so that when I put that panel that's been letterpressed, it doesn't have a dent or it doesn't dip on the card front. So this is just to even out the front of the card. So when I place that panel, it's nice and flat. So this is a card that I want to send to the post. So I'm not going to have it too thick. Hence, there's no foam sheet or dimensional tape, just an additional layer of card. And I've added some gems on this as well. You can see the slight shimmer. So a nice simple card, quite flat, that can go through the post. Here are all the cards that I've created using the letterpress plates or the BetterPress plates. So I've done letterpressing as well as hot foiling. I do like this image and I do like it whether it's stamped or letterpressed repetitively to cover the front of the card, or just one of that image. So there's so many different ways you can use the card. And I also like hot foiling it because, as you know, I do love hot foiling, and when I have my hot foiling machine out, it's kind of hard for me to take it away. So I do like hot foiling the letterpress or BetterPress plate sentiments. And I've made quite a lot of Easter cards and have it nice and ready when Easter comes. As you can see, you can use those club kits together because Spellbinders always issues their Spellbinders club kits for the month in theme, and I can use them all together. Here are close-up pictures of all the cards that I've created. I hope you've been inspired and you find all the various compositions that I've assembled with the hot foiling and letterpressing inspirational, and do let me know what you think. Do leave me a comment and I'd love to hear from you. Constructive comments, good or bad, are always welcome. Thank you so much for stopping by. Happy crafting when you get your Spellbinders club kits, and I'll catch you at my next video. Do take care.